You're about to hear a conversation with my clients Amanda and Daniel from Recalibrated Bodies, two of the most impressive fitness coaches and business owners in the coaching industry. So we sit down for a conversation to discuss the weekend that was in the mastermind and also where they're at in their business. Because if you're someone who wants to build a freedom empire, then you want to hear Amanda and Daniel speak. They are living proof of people who work on creating profit freedom to live the life they want, but also time freedom to spend it doing the things that they love with their family. So enjoy the session and watch out for the end because I have something special to give to Amanda and Daniel. How has the weekend been here in Dubai?
Absolutely smashing. It's been so good to spend time in room with so many like-minded people that are all on the same kind of mission. But for me personally, it's given so much strategy, clarity, and really clearly defined action points to implement for the next 3 months.
Yeah, agreed. I think it can be so hard when you're busy in the day-to-day of the business that you get caught up in delivery and marketing and operations and management and stuff like that, that it can be very difficult to actually get the time to sit down and focus on strategy and actually really put plans in place and do a lot of reflection, evaluation, and then put vision in place for the next 3, 6, 12 months. And that's something that I found really beneficial from this weekend was we were forced to actually take the time to work on it. But not just the time as well, but the structure of it was excellent in that you had the opportunity to learn some key things and then actually take the time to plan it out and see how you're going to take action on this and actually implement it in your business, which is something I feel often is overlooked. And sometimes you just walk away with so much information that you almost don't know what to do with it, and then nothing gets done. Whereas this weekend, we have a plan that we're walking away from it with, that we know exactly what we're going to do from the next week to the next 90 days.
It was the perfect balance of information and implementation.
Yeah.
I think as well, sometimes you can kind of, to your point, of like getting caught up in the calls, the client work, the marketing. You get the information and you might just go back into the work again and you're kind of like, hey, I know I need to maybe build out a few things or work on a few things. Maybe you don't give yourself the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's actually just do it now. Like, why not actually work on like building things in the industry?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Give you that white face to have those more creative thought processes, especially like with kids in the gym and just our busy life has been. It's just really nice to sit there because I know for myself, I'd never carve time out to work on the business. And that feel a huge point that I walk away that I need to have a day during the week where it's just like thinking, giving myself that like space to come away from just doing the day-to-day operational things, especially if we want to drive by a scale moving forward.
And the other thing I would say to that as well is that even if you were able to make the white space for yourself and you were quite good at sitting down and doing some planning and strategy by yourself, having actual guidance and coaching around what should be done and prompts of what should be done so that you actually know what you're working on, it's going to move the needle in the business. And it's not just you feeling like you're doing something, but you're actually doing something that's productive and is actually going to give you returns on your business.
Yeah. So I think to your point around Julie, you don't need to anything necessarily new. Obviously there's for the like some new strategies and some uplift, but a lot of it is optimizing what you're currently doing.
Yeah.
And then it's even like what we built over the weekend with the blueprint and the Hopworks. That's there for you as assets and always going forward, but that doesn't mean that those assets will optimize and evolve as well. Yeah. You know, after you spend, okay, you build this now, you implement for 6 months, and you're like, wow, John's made such a difference to marketing, to the sales, to delivery. And then you might sit there in 6 months' time and be like, oh, so would we like actually refine anything here? Like, is there, over the last 6 months, has the business evolved in a certain way? Has our audience like maybe slightly adjusted that maybe this also needs to tweak and adjust?
100%, and that's actually something that I actually walked away from this weekend for the first time in a long time, is actually understanding what to do with social media now, because for so long all we've ever done is organic content and organic posting, and we've always kind of avoided things like ads and stuff like that because you just saw it as almost selling and trying to sell when your content isn't good enough to sell organically, that you're almost paying to force the content on someone. Whereas this weekend I walked away with a very different perspective on it, that that's not the goal of ads really anymore, is that it's actually more so to to help get more eyeballs on your actual content, not just trying to sell to people, but just to actually help people get into your ecosystem, make sure that they are just seeing your content. And that was a bit of a big mindset shift for me around content creation and marketing, and had that beforehand. I was very kind of resistant to, whereas now I'm like, okay, I can actually see how this is it's the kind of new age of marketing for businesses now.
And to add to that, I think for me, labeling those pillars was so important, because I suppose it's been coaching a very long time, so we've got a really good reputation. People know RB as Amanda and Dania. Whereas now I think having those really clearly defined pillars allows us to scale, because someone will take on extra team, extra coaches, extra staff. We're all working from the same platforms, and this is our coaching style. And no matter who you get within the team, we're all approaching our lifestyle coaching approach is all very, very similar. And I think that's going to allow us to scale a lot quicker, fill blocks with new clients that are coming in. And then if we ever want to go down the road of like selling the business or stepping into it entirely, just giving us so much more freedom.
Yeah, so if you're big in place, and that's what people are, the entire training course.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think to your point as well around the ecosystem and stuff, like what I was saying, like that's something you're already doing for years, you've realizing it. So you build such an organic following that as people focus to your ecosystem organically, and you were building a reputation, training, like and trust with those people, and that's why you would successful so very. So now you're just like, how do we essentially have employees that way ads? So then actually, again, kind of going back to the optimizing side of things, like, hey, this is something we're actually doing, maybe even subconsciously, and how could we amplify that? And when people are currently in, because eventually the market's more sophisticated, eventually there's more being there. Do we have other additional strategy being within that ecosystem? Build that sounds like the trust. And like even what Hayden was speaking today, the like conveyor belt system. Maybe that conveyor belt a few years ago could have been like super simplistic, and now there's just more dimensions to it.
Yeah.
So it's never a case of completely new. It's you've still been like growing the business in the way that you want, and having a mental clients, so you want to be happy with the growing and getting a goal. So even though things would have been probably better within the business, it just was set up the way to get to where you want to get to. And then it's like, now we need to go to the next level. It's like, oh, there's something we weren't doing there that if we started or we could implement. I think that's important. That I think a lot of times people can overwhelm when it comes to business. Without it could be doing that, it could be doing that, it could be doing this. And it's okay, that's you could be. Maybe right now you don't necessarily need to be. Your testing needs to be and then you're like, okay, now we're at the stage. Is the next level up like really like building off this part of it?
But that's just like weird, and like that was actually one really good thing that the weekend was to actually identify what is the one next thing that we have to work on to move the needle in business. Because like you said, sometimes it can be overwhelming with the number of things you have to do in a business, and really prioritizing what is the most important and what is going to have the biggest impact.
Yeah.
And then planning out when you're going to do that makes such a difference. Because I know sometimes it can be very easy that business can just be so busy that you're like, okay, I know I need to do this thing that's really going to shift our business, but I enjoy doing this and this is easier to do. So I'll kind of procrastinate productively by doing this other thing that I know is not really going to move the business too much further, but it feels productive and it feels like I'm doing something. Whereas what I really need to do is this hard thing that I've been doing.
But I think that's something that's like so impressive about your style of mentoring. It's like, obviously you walk away from a mastermind like this in like clear plans, like on a week basis when we do our check-ins, be it like the calls or like the check-in forms. Those like actionable tips that he wants us to do. It's like, even like that, doing the own multiple things, especially like the whole marketing piece for me, and give me a deadline and just holding to that level of accountability. Since we've started working together, your style of mentoring just holds us to another level of accountability, but also gives us like, what is the priorities, what order do we find those in, because there's always so many things to implement, but having that like strategy before.
I think it can be very easy to say to someone, post with more content or send more DMs. I know it's like, well, I'd say Johnny down the road could tell you, so that's why, or like, increase your prices. Like, that's not really advice. Okay, maybe people are undercharging, they do need to increase their prices. But for me, when it comes to working with you guys, why I love it is because you already have an amazing business, complex, it's exciting. So they're always going to be like small or little things that we can do that would like see a big shift. And that excites me because it's not, I don't enjoy like basic, send more messages, do more content.
Yeah.
And that's something that Lead really values so much from the coaching with you, was that you actually got eyes on our business and you know what's going on. You know the numbers, you know our team, you know what we're doing, you know what our vision and what we want from the business is. And then you're actually doing what a coach should do and coach us to guide us in the right direction and help us make the right decisions, as opposed to just telling us what to do or just saying, you know, sometimes there is an element of rinse and repeat. There is always going to be that element, but essentially, like we said, anyone can do that by themselves. What we often need and what we really value is that you really show us the options available and you help us weigh up the pros and cons of each option, and then you allow us to make the decision, but you give us the information that we need to be able to make the right decision for our business. And that's been immensely helpful.
Or if you don't decide three.
Exactly.
I give you two options. If you agree on the same option, you decide.
Yeah.
If you don't agree,
Then you decide for it.
But it actually has been really nice. Like, this is probably a bit of a side note. It actually has been really nice because obviously we parent together, we train together, we work together. There's just a lot of togetherness in what we do. And now it's like, if you have an idea, and if you're like, well, I think, like, that's a conversation when we're chatting to Connor.
Yeah, but that's it. You're like, we'll look on the photo. Let's go on this one.
okay, how can I offset either?
Yeah, but I think it's like, obviously you're going from a fitness background as well, and your style of coaching or dinner hours are collaborative and differently better opposed to just directive.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that with you. It's like, if we want to push, we push. We want to pull, we pull, and there's never any like judgment on how we want to move forward for someone. That's been really, really good.
And to that point as well, what's been really nice is that the goals that have been set are something that feel they're challenging. Like, we still have to work hard and they push us to work hard, but they're within reach.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes you can get lost in trying to chase these big numbers because you see on people personnel, or you hear about other mentors pushing it and all this and stuff like that. Whereas what I've really enjoyed, and maybe this comes from a place of having been in business for 10 years, that we're a little bit more mature with our business, that we're like, what's actually more important is that it's sustainable, that we're not going to try and push the business. It's not going to fall apart and break, and it's going to stress us out, and it's going to cause us more stress than what it's worth. And for us, a lot of the things that we actually want from the business is things like having more time, having stability, having security of knowing that we're predicting what's going to happen rather than just free months. And I think for that's been the most valuable part. Obviously, being able to increase our income and make more money from and be able to help more people and help them better is obviously really good, because we have been doing this for so long.
Maybe that's knowing, I guess, the people that you're working with and what they need. So let's take another coach, for example, who might leave, go on self-belief, feels like they haven't kind of like growth business at all to the level that they want. I feel like someone like that needs to be pushed with maybe like a scary number that doesn't seem possible, and they're going to need that like reinforcement. The working with you guys and the energy that you brought was like, yeah, you want to be pushed, yeah, you want to continue to evolve and progress. But as you said, you want to do it with like living a particular way of life in it. If I pushed too hard, it wouldn't be that you would say no to go, because I know once I set you there, you could probably do it. But with them, I'd be pulling you away from people you wanted to be as business that you wanted to have. So again, like what I always say is I try, it's not about me, it's about you get. Once you're happy,
Yeah.
and saying like we can be happier with how the business is going, that's all I care about. Like, it doesn't really matter what that actually looks like.
But based on what the feeling to taking that both. And I'm sure there will be a day where we're like, right, let's rock and roll. But for now, just like having that stability, buying that fine to have more freely the kids, all of those things are so much more valuable. And a lot of other coaches maybe focus so heavily on their revenue because it looks good for them, not necessarily for the people.
That's probably where we're very similar as well, because like the freedom empire that I speak about is wanting to earn a lot of money to live an amazing life and work with a lot of clients, have that impact. But also we have the freedom to do it. And I would say I again would be similar to you in terms of you grow from a place of abundance. So a lot of people grow their business kind of place and thing. And that's fine, like that's their style. But I feel if he worked with someone who has a lot of pain and was working and growing to a place of like going towards that, they would give off that energy being that. They're not probably are the magic ones lying with you, because you want to grow in a different way. That's again kind of like when you're working with someone, even for like people coming to you, I'm sure it's like that saying, you don't want to just work with someone with what they've achieved and desired. It's also how they've achieved it and the way they go about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that's really, really important.
Also, it's very true because I think a lot of people don't quite realize our work ethic. And we come from a place of we have worked 7 days a week for years on end, and we've worked ourselves out. And that is the problem, like you said, is that if you set us a target, we do work towards it. Yeah. You can set us a big target and we will work hard towards it, but it's going to come at the price of burning out again. And I like to kind of think of business at this stage as more of like a marathon than a sprint. Where it's like, yeah, we could probably try and push and double our revenue in the next 2 months or 3 months. But we can't sustain that. It's not sustainable. We're going to come a point where something's going to break, and it's either the business is going to break or we're going to break ourselves. The place that we're at now with business is that we want to continuously improve and we want to continuously grow, but we also want to be able to do it for long enough that it's going to be a sustainable business batch. You know, you don't wake up every single day for the next 5 years stressed out of your mind and exhausted.
That leads me very nicely on to something I want to present to you, go with. So I think you've got a great example of, for me, what I look at to clients in terms of having a business where it's not just about revenue, but it's also not just about complete freedom either. So I feel if you go completely down the freedom route, maybe you're not like tapping into the potential of the life that you have. And then again, if you go too far the opposite, maybe you build a business without building the life you want, or maybe building a business but breaking down relationships. So my two would be couple goals for me going forward, but also just in terms of like your family, like going away in the summer with your kids, the business running without you, having the time freedom, vacation freedom, profit freedom. Yeah, just kind of like everything that I look for in terms of clients, in terms of like what we're achieving. So this is the Freedom Empire Zentler Awards.
Oh,
Or mine though, isn't it? Yeah, I'm kind of afraid to take it out because I know we'll break it.
that's amazing.
That's really cool, then.
But I wanted to do something different.
Funny backstory, Daniel won overall, maybe 2016, and drafted on stage.
No way. I was spelling the great watching.
You probably were. They gave it to me and
Very
gave it
careful.
to me inside the box, and I kind of like went to kind of pull up the box and it just fell out.
I don't know why I almost think I like remember that now.
It dropped his trophy and broke the stage.
And that is so lovely.
That'll be nice for the office now.
I was like, we now need to get a shelf to put that on.
Yeah,
It's a little poster and something like that.
I love it.
Appreciate everything that you've done for us as well. It's honestly, it's been so good.
Connor, that is sick.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's so different.
Yeah. Really appreciate that.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
That is
Looks nice though, isn't it? Oh, it's beautiful.